I'll be moderating our presentation today. So let me tell you a little bit about my project. I work on the Texas Living Waters Project, and we are a collaboration of conservation groups, which include the Sierra Club, National Wildlife Federation, and Galveston Bay Foundation. And we are focusing on ensuring that we manage our water resources in Texas so that we have water for both people and the environment. To that end, we must use water efficiently in our communities, and we need to look for water savings everywhere that we can. So that's why we're focusing on the PACE program and ICI water savings today. We think that the PACE program has great potential and is a powerful tool for industrial, commercial, and institutional water users to retrofit their buildings and operations, not only to save water, but to save money. Let me move to the next slide. So we have gathered industry professionals today to introduce the ins and outs of PACE financing for water efficiency upgrades. Jonathon Blackburn is the Managing Director of the Texas PACE Authority, and he will guide us through a high-level look at the PACE program. Bill Hoffman of Hoffman and Associates will then provide us a detailed look into the various water-efficient indoor upgrades that ICI water users can implement. So he'll talk to you kind of about the water savings that you can expect on the indoor inside your buildings. And finally, David Clements with Banyan Water will guide us through the savings potential for landscape and outdoor spaces. We also have my colleague Ruthie Redmond on the line here helping run things in the background, and she'll be fielding your questions and helping you all deal with any technical issues that may arise, which we've already had one that we've already fixed, so hopefully everyone can hear us. And just a few logistics. The webinar will be 75 minutes, and we're going to have time for Q&A at the end. And if the presentations don't take the full time, we'll still do Q&A at the end and finish early if we can. The audio is through your telephone or your computer mic and speakers, and you can choose which option works best for you. Please type your questions into the control panel. They'll be answered at the end of the webinar by presenters. Ruthie's going to be keeping track of the questions and be feeding them to us at the end. So please give us your questions. All your phone lines are muted. There's going to be a survey that automatically pops up at the end of the presentation. It would be really helpful to us if you all can take a few minutes to answer that. We've got a few questions about water use and PACE. And then also, finally, we're going to be recording the webinar, and we will post it online on our website at texaslivingwaters.org. So we'll have all that information in there for you. So let's go ahead and move on with our program. Our first speaker is Jonathon Blackburn. He is with the Texas PACE Authority, and he's going to give an introduction to the PACE process and discuss how the program works and what it can do for your utility and for your business. Let's see here. There's your slide.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Jonathon Blackburn with the Texas PACE Authority. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I want to spend a few minutes talking about what is PACE financing and how you can take advantage of it. And then we'll finish up the webinar with what you can use it for, both inside and outside in terms of water conservation. So before I jump into PACE, I live in Austin, and it's been kind of wet lately. There's been a lot of rain the past year or so. And, you know, if you look at a map of what Texas looks like right now in terms of water status, it looks pretty good. We have come out of the drought. The immediate strain on our water supply has been relieved. But it hasn't been too long ago since the state looked like that. Everybody remembers the kind of historic drought that we're just coming out of, and this drought really, I think, made a lot of people cognizant of how important our water supply is and how important managing it correctly is. And so out of that drought, a lot of people have become more water conscious, and so the question is, what do we do about it? How do we make ourselves use that resource more efficiently? And you know, I deal a lot with energy and water efficiency, and in Texas we have this unique challenge. If you were to ask someone Do you want to be more efficient, use less energy and water? The answer is going to be a resounding yes. Of course, everyone wants to be efficient. But in Texas, we have this kind of unique equation that is a unique challenge for efficiency projects. And as I see it, in Texas, well, not just Texas, but everywhere, efficiency projects typically have a high capital cost. A lot of efficiency projects, water efficiency and energy, can be expensive on the upfront end. And when you combine that with what we have in Texas, which is low water prices, the result are efficiency projects that have long paybacks. And if you're a business owner simply wanting to be efficient, you have to also combine that with an economic argument. And it's tough to do sometimes in terms of efficiency projects. So what I want to show you today and what I want to explain about PACE is how PACE is able to take that equation and completely flip it on its head. Instead of having to worry about projects that have a long payback, what PACE does is it allows a business owner, a property owner, to do a project that's going to make them more efficient, and it's going to lower their utility cost. And at the same time, it's going to increase their bottom line or increase their net operating income. What PACE allows an industrial commercial property owner to do is to do one of these capital projects to make their facility more efficient and at the same time increase their bottom line. Kind of a unique concept, a little bit unusual, but as I'll show you, the math actually is pretty simple in how PACE allows that.
Oh, something happened.
All right, so let's get our slides back up.
They back up?
Yeah.
We good?
Sorry, we had a computer update pop up and it threw our webinar off. Is that the beginning? Okay. Okay, there we go.
Okay, here we go. So that was the intro. So now I'll jump into what is PACE. Essentially, PACE, the concept, there's a lot of details involved, but the concept is pretty simple. PACE is a 100% long-term financing option, and it's for projects that have an energy or water efficiency component. Essentially, projects that are going to pay for themselves by making a facility more efficient. Now, the way it works and what makes PACE pretty unique is the way that it's structured. And the way it works is that in 2013, the Texas State Legislature passed a law that said local governments in Texas can create a program if they want to. And so they handed it off to the cities and counties to decide whether they wanted to create a program or not. And so what we have now is a city or a county can opt to create a program. It's completely voluntary. And what they do is they create a program in their district, and at that point, essentially, they hand it off to the private sector to put together projects that the local business community wants to participate in. And so what happens once a program is created, a property owner or business owner in that area can decide, hey, I've got an efficiency project I want to do, and I want to use PACE to finance it. They link up with one of our private capital providers. And in Texas, all of our funding for projects is provided by the private sector. There are no tax dollars at risk here. The government is not funding projects. And then the unique part about PACE is that the financing gets paid back through an assessment on the property itself. So this is very similar, really identical to a sidewalk or a sewer assessment or a PID or a MUD. All of those are mechanisms for paying for infrastructure. PACE works the exact same way. It's just for an efficiency project or the infrastructure on an individual building. First time you hear that, it always sounds kind of weird. Why would you want to do that? Why is that useful? And I'll show you exactly how, why that mechanism, that special assessment mechanism, is really interesting and has unlocked funding for a lot of projects which otherwise would not exist. But before I do that, I want to jump into what is eligible for PACE. So what can you use PACE for? And to start with, let's start with property types that are eligible for PACE. PACE, from a very broad perspective, is a commercial property program. So it's available for commercial property, and typically you think of things like office buildings, retail, hotels. Certainly all of those properties are commercial. But commercial also includes a number of other things that you might not at first think of as commercial property. The first one are apartment complexes. So multifamily with 5 or more units, eligible for PACE. One which we see is going to be really big in Texas is the industrial and agricultural sector. All of those types of facilities, manufacturing, large farms, industrial facilities, all of those are eligible for PACE. And finally, the nonprofit sector. We've seen a lot of interest from private hospitals, private schools, and churches, religious institutions, to use PACE. So that's the property side. Now I want to shift over to, well, okay, so yeah, listed our eligible properties, kind of the four big categories. It's worth addressing what's not eligible in terms of properties, and broadly there's 3 things that are not eligible. PACE does have to be for a retrofit, so it's not for new construction. It also is for privately owned property, so government-owned property, including school districts, are not eligible. And again, PACE is not a single-family residential program. It's a commercial program. So that's the property side of things. On the project side, it's pretty broad as to what you can use PACE for. Essentially, the requirement in the law, in the statute, is that it has to have, the technology has to have an energy or a water efficiency component. In terms of water efficiency, the ones we see most often are really a couple of things. Low water use irrigation technologies, that's certainly eligible for PACE. Indoor water fixtures that are low flow fixtures, things like sinks, toilets, faucets, all of that is eligible to use PACE. You can use PACE for some type of gray water use or a purple pipe system. So using some of the buildings, cooling water or other systems that don't need to be potable can be used in a PACE project. Any type of on-site reuse system or a rainwater collection system, any of those types of systems can also fall under PACE. We don't maintain a comprehensive list. Really, it's a little more broad than that. So if you ever have any questions on is it eligible for PACE, we can always give you an answer pretty quick. So I want to shift into kind of the value proposition. Why do people care about PACE? Why is it such a buzzword these days? And really, I think it comes down to how efficiency projects are pitched right now versus what they could be using PACE. And having sat through a lot of contractor pitches over the last couple years, invariably they all look something similar to this. The contractor will pitch things like a strong ROI and how much money the customer is going to save over the useful life. They'll pitch how innovative their technology is, and how they have expertise in that field, and they'll show a graph that looks something similar to this in terms of cash flows. So 20 years of cash flows. And this is what's pitched, but the problem is what the property owner, the business owner hears is nothing like this. All the business owner hears will be that first part, that first 5 years. And they ask things like, well, that graph looks really great, but where am I going to get the funding for this project? Or what if I sell that building? Your 20 years of cash flows don't work if I sell the building in 5 years. I've heard phrases like we only do X year payback projects. Maybe we only do 3-year payback projects, and efficiency projects can't fit in that window. We hear things like sometimes the tenants in a property will pay the utility bills, or even a lot of contractors I'm sure have heard this before, questioning whether the technology really will deliver in terms of savings. Well, what PACE does is flips that on its head. It eliminates that ROI conversation and provides a smooth funding mechanism over the life of the project, so you know exactly what your cost is going to be every year, and enables you to invest in your infrastructure and yet to do so in a way which is economically sound. PACE has a lot of advantages, some of which will be interesting to some property owners, some of which might not. Just to hit some of the big ones, PACE can be considered a triple net lease pass-through, meaning that if you have a property which is being leased to tenants, the tenants pay the utility bills. The tenants are the ones that would get the benefit from the more efficient building, and PACE allows you to pass through the assessment cost through that triple net lease. PACE transfers on the sale of a property. So if a building is sold, an owner is worried about over-investing in their property, they might sell the building. Well, PACE is attached to the property itself, so it stays with the building in case the building is sold. PACE also is fully amortized. It's no acceleration on default. So if a payment is missed, it's just like any other special assessment. The only payment that will be collected is the one that's in arrears. There's no personal guarantee. The security for the PACE assessment is the property itself. And we're also able to fund projects prior to construction. So rather than having to take out an expensive construction loan, you can use PACE to fund the project and the entire cost of the project up front. So I want to give an example of kind of some of our marquee projects in the water efficiency space. Last fall, we closed 3 projects on the same day, all at mall properties in the Austin area, 1 in Travis County, 2 in Williamson County. And the owner of these malls, Simon Property Group, has used PACE to do a number of measures, including water conservation, that between the 3 properties we estimated would save almost 2.5 million gallons of water a year. These mall projects involve really 3 big things: LED lighting, improvements to their mechanical HVAC air conditioning systems, and low-flow water fixtures inside the building. Overall, this was about a $4 million project between the 3 properties that is going to save the owner and the tenants about $500,000 a year in reduced utility expenses, including water and energy. So if you were to want to do a PACE project today, where is PACE? In Texas, there are, I think, 11 counties and 2 cities that have created PACE programs. Started in Travis County and Austin. Here in Austin, we've now got an I-35 corridor, Hayes, Travis, and Williamson. The city of Houston and Fort Bend County in that area have a program. The city of Dallas has a program. El Paso, 3 counties in the Lower Rio Grande Valley, Nueces County, which is Corpus Christi, Brazos County, which is Bryan and College Station, and as well as Jefferson County in East Texas. We've seen a lot of interest in counties surrounding Dallas in the DFW area and in Bexar County and San Antonio. So there has been a lot of stakeholder interest in those counties as well. One of the things we do is we help counties and cities on board and bring a program online, and we are happy to work with any counties or cities that want to do that in that endeavor. So that's kind of the end of my overview of PACE. My organization, the Texas PACE Authority, we're the administrator of PACE programs here in Texas for cities and counties. We will help cities and counties get their programs up and running, and then on the back end, we're happy to run those programs for them at no cost to the local government. So what I want to do now is I guess I'll turn it back over to Jennifer, and then we'll move along.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I want to remind everybody that we're going to do questions at the end, so please send us your questions. I know I've got a couple now, and I also want to apologize. In the middle of the webinar, of course, my computer asked me if I want to do updates, which is always exciting when you're running a program. But we've got it going now. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Hold on. So our next speaker is Bill Hoffman. Bill is an engineer and well-known probably to many people on this webinar. He's going to provide a detailed look into the savings of various indoor water-efficient fixtures and technologies, as well as a breakdown on the many areas within the ICI sector for PACE can be used. Bill also discussed where ICI water users can get the most bang for their buck, details of indoor water use by different sectors and facilities, and the cost of water by fixture, appliance, and industry. Of course, we all know Bill likes to go into detail, so he's going to dig into this for us. So take it away, Bill, and thank you for being here.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to quickly move through. The objective here is not to look at the details, but to try to get the feel for where we're coming from. So without further ado, let's just start taking a look at what we're going to talk about. How do we use the water? How much of this water volume is PACE eligible? What is the energy water connections? Because PACE is also an energy program, and it's very important to understand how you can take your water savings out of the energy side and the energy savings out of the water side when you're doing your return on investment. And finally, look at some of the stuff on some very interesting dynamics that are happening. Wastewater rates are going up at least twice as fast as energy rates in the United States. So without further ado, how do we use water? What is PACE eligible? First place, this is the big picture, 12.2 million acre feet. That's about 11 billion gallons of water a day that the state uses. As you can see, about half of it is non-agricultural. I will mention the agricultural area is eligible for some PACE funding, but that's not our topic today. So, I also mentioned that leaks are a huge thing, and we're going to talk more about that later. But how do we use water in the state of Texas? This is a very interesting breakdown that shows that about 52% of all the water used by Texas cities falls into the category which is generally PACE eligible for funding, multifamily and the institutional, commercial, industrial. How does that break down in some detail? Well, institutional is only about 3%, and that does include nonprofit institutionals, which are eligible. You can see that when you put the big picture in and you're bringing all the industrial users and everybody else in here, because a lot of industrial people are self-supplied, there is a huge opportunity for PACE volumetrically. 1 trillion gallons of water a year are used by eligible projects, and that's 53% of all of this. Even that 10% savings would be a huge amount of water. Here's another interesting one, and I do this. What we found, and by the way, my first time I closed the water balance on a water audit was in 1967. I've been doing this a few years. This is just a good show, though, of some actual facilities where they did the engineering calculations on how much water was saved. They saved more than what the engineering calculation showed because they, in the process of fixing these things up, they fixed leaks. Leaks are huge, and it's kind of, you worry about the long-term payback. A lot of this payback is a lot faster than you really think because the equipment is upgraded and going. And just to let you know that on the in the industrial sector, we have manufacturing, mining, and steam electric. This is for your own information there. Here's an interesting one. And the most intensive water use in gallons per square foot of any type of commercial facility, food service. And you can see here, this is just showing in Austin, the red shows all these different types of commercial facilities that have food service. You start thinking about this and you start breaking things down, you start seeing some very interesting concepts come about. And we're going to go down and look at a little bit more detail. First place, per capita water use in Texas, as in the United States, is going down. This is good. It's because of plumbing codes and a whole bunch of other things. There's a significant amount of water out there left to save. We mentioned multifamily. This is how people use water indoors. And again, you will notice in my little box, I don't know what happened here, but on a slide, that was just to show the leaks in here. But this is where we were 10 years in 1999, where we are today. It's coming down, and the bar graph on the right shows where we think we can go with water efficiency inside the home, whether that's multifamily or single family. A lot of potential, a lot of dollars. On the manufacturing water use per dollar of output has actually been dropping for a number of years. The biggest evidence of that was the Clean Water Act, because they had to treat the wastewater before they could discharge it. Still a significant amount of opportunity there. Now let's get into how water is used within these industries. And if you're seeing red, you should be seeing red. cooling is a huge component of most industrial operations. That's an energy and water type project just waiting to happen. When you save energy there, you can reduce your water use, etc. Now, and this is for the commercial sector. And here, it didn't show up on the other thing here, is that?
There we go.
Okay, good. On here, you will notice there's a lot of red there too. Downtown office buildings tend to be mostly cooling tower use, much more than it is indoor use for restrooms, etc. Elementary schools have a lot of irrigation going on, and we'll talk about that later. I'm focusing on the inside stuff. So let's take a deep look at how water is used inside of various types of facilities. A lot of it's restroom use, community centers, there's a lot of food service, and clinics, there's a lot of this other use of various kinds because they have other types of equipment going on. Point, there are a lot of different places to get savings out of here, and you'll need to look at all these different technologies that fit there. If you're looking at just restrooms themselves, and we'll talk why we want to do that, you can see that for most of these places, the toilets are the huge component, followed by faucets, except in hotels where people are taking showers. Opportunities galore, and there's hot water use in all of these. So let's take a look at the dollar side of it to help you on this. This is a fairly significant graph. This line here is the rate at which water and wastewater rates are going up compared to other things like natural gas and electricity. This is going to have an impact on that. Long-term payback is going to get shorter as time goes on because these water and wastewater rates are going up fast. So you're going to get more bang for your buck. You can look at this. These are going to be later, but this is just a projection based on the last 20 years that water and wastewater rates have gone up at 5.85%, and this is where you'll be in the future on average national water costs. What does this mean? Well, I tried to get a simplest example as I could. If you have a 5-gallon flush toilet today, at Texas rates, it's about 3 cents a flush. It's going to be 18 cents a flush in the not too distant future. And the big bang for the buck, your home, you flush, the average person flushes the toilet. This is a statistical thing that came up with 5.05 times a day. But if you're in an office building, it's probably about 30 or 40 times a day. And if you're a grocery store or a restaurant, it could be 60 to 100 times a day. So payback goes up fast, particularly as those water rates go up. And there is an energy-water connection that you need to be aware of. Again, PACE is eligible for both energy and water efficiency projects. I'll spend a little time here to kind of hit a few things here. Most of the time, when you save water, you save energy, and when you save energy, you save water. This is particularly true for most hot water use, but there are conflicts out there, and I'll show you some of the dollar dynamics that are happening out there in the future on this that will make you want to take a hard look at your system and the way you design your water conservation and your energy conservation retrofits. First place, this is just a laundry list. You can look at it yourself. These are all the places where energy and water interface, where there is a nexus between energy and water on the on-site, on your premises, how these things fit together. Important. Just looking at hot water use, this is typical indoor use, and what percent of that total water is hot water. I mean, all your water use for your dishwasher is going to be hot water. This is right straight down the line like this. You can see that you have a lot of hot water use. So when you're doing that energy retrofit, make sure you get your dollar savings. When you're doing that water retrofit, make sure you get your energy savings figured into your ROI. It's a very important component of that. Also, there are a lot of other things. You have the water, the sewer, the energy, the chemical cost, water treatment for laundry operations, softening for dishwashers and for laundries, and all this other thing fits into figuring out your total ROI for your water savings and also joint energy savings with these projects. Here's an example. This is what I mean. Using today's national average cost to flush a toilet, water is costing around 1.1 cents a gallon. So if you have a 5-gallon flush toilet, that's you can get the idea out of this. You add the energy cost in the shower, since you don't use all hot water in the shower. This is how much the energy component is there. Using a dishwasher in a commercial environment, the stuff that we're eligible for with PACE, you have the water cost, the energy cost, the water softening costs, and the other chemical costs that are associated with commercial use. So again, you're dealing with a 1.1 cents there, but you're dealing with 4.2 cents for that commercial dishwasher. Looking at all these costs, you're going to have to get your payback on the ROI. And here's some examples where perhaps you should look at some trade-offs. In the past, one of the interesting things is that people say, well, water-cooled ice machines are more energy efficient. This is true. But at today's current cost of water, a water-cooled machine with one-screw cooling is going to cost a lot more to operate than an air-cooled machine does because of the water cost. Here's the graph to show you how dynamic this is. And this is looking at the new standards that are coming out from DOE and the current EPA average cost of things. The blue lines represent the cost for I'm getting a little techie on you here, but the batch type machines, these are the ones that make the clear ice that goes in the drinks, and then you have the tubelets and nutlets, or the flake ice that you use for a lot of other things. To save 10 cents on energy with a cube type machine, at average water and wastewater rates today in the United States, you're going to have to pay $1.63 in water and wastewater for that thing to operate. This shows you when you're doing these choices, you need to look at everything out there for energy efficiency and water efficiency and run the numbers for all the utilities. Make sure that you know what's going on there. Another area where a lot of things are coming out, cooling towers. Most large facilities that are eligible for PACE are going to have cooling tower type systems. It's an old workhorse of the business, and it's going to be here for a long time to come. But there's some interesting dynamics and some interesting opportunities here for PACE to do both energy and water efficiency and balance out things here. Right now, if you take ASHRAE's, American Society, the guys that do, just cut through the case, the guys that do the air conditioning and refrigeration type stuff, their organization, they've done this thing showing at the average way you use a cooling tower, how many gallons of water per year do you use per chiller ton? And I have two bars in there. I have one for Houston and one for Dallas, and it's anywhere from 3,600 to 4,000 gallons of water per year per ton of air conditioning installed capacity. Well, a typical office building will have 500 or 1,000 tons. That's a huge amount of water. A lot of water which we can be saving by getting more efficient on how you operate your cooling tower, but also getting more efficient on how you use energy within that facility. Because this is the case where the reason that you're using a cooling tower is to get rid of unwanted energy. And PACE works on the unwanted energy side too to help you get back the other way. What this shows too is the impact we talked about the dollar side. Right now, the red bar shows that yes, you come out with a net of you save about 0.35 kilowatt hours per ton hour by using an evaporative system because you're cooling to wet bulb temperature. The old thing is the water will cool to a lower temperature than the air temperature outside because you're evaporating water. But as we go through time, 20 years from now, those savings are negated by the increasing rates for water. And this is just a really important consideration. I am just saying that in the future, as we go through these things, you need to take these into considerations when you're doing your projects and doing your upgrades too. By the way, there's a lot of technologies coming. There are hybrid towers. Your air conditioning unit at home is an air-cooled system. You can, one in your large office building is a water-cooled system, water cooling by evaporation. There are combination systems that take advantage of both. There are also a lot of other technologies coming out. Geothermal, something that is very eligible with the PACE funding like this, is both very energy efficient and doesn't use any water. I could go on with more technology here than I want to get into, but there you go with this. A lot of different systems out there. The other part of it is there are a lot of ways to reduce the number of tons, hours of waste heat that you put into your cooling tower. Energy conservation. Air side and water side economizers. If you're in the cooling tower business, you know what I just said. These are ways to make your tower operate more efficiently by getting around the evaporative component of it. Reusing waste heat. Again, if you come out with your working fluid, your Freon, so to say, at a temperature of 145 degrees, that's just about the temperature you want to heat hot water to. So if you can take that heat and put it in the heating hot water, that doesn't go to the cooling tower and it doesn't evaporate water. A lot of other technologies and things out there, and they're all going to be PACE eligible. That's the point. And now, getting down to the very last end of what I want to say, something that Jonathon brought up, we have, first place, getting buildings ready to be able to use reclaimed water from municipalities is one thing, and is PACE eligible, but a whole lot of things have happened on the on-site water reuse side. This is gray water, this is water from sinks and laboratories and showers and clothes washers, rainwater, air conditioning, condensate. You see the laundry list there. In December 2016, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality promulgated new rules that make it much easier for everybody to get in here and use water. Those from these sources, it's all PACE fundable too. So where am I getting at? The cheapest water we'll ever have is the water you already have. If you can do things to make you a lot more efficient, a lot of good things are going to happen, and you're going to save a lot of water, and you're going to save a lot of money in the future. So let's get started with that. And I know we're holding questions to the end, so I thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot, Bill. That was a quick tour through a really important topic, looking at indoor water savings. There are tons of potential for water savings, and I know that many of our institutional, industrial, commercial facilities, they're unique. There's different things going on in each of them, so there's lots of different ways to target indoor savings. I think is the gist of what Bill is saying, and lots of ways to improve efficiencies, both in energy and water. So lots of potential there. Our final speaker is going to look at the possible savings from outdoor water savings in the outdoor space. David Clements is with Banyan Water, and he is going to share with us some of the tactics and strategies folks can use to achieve outdoor water savings and the different interventions and how much you think we can save. So we'll do that, and we'll do questions. And we see that questions are coming in. Ruthie's keeping track of them, so thanks for doing that, y'all. Take it away, David.
Great. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. So we work a lot with the commercial and institutional customers, especially office and multifamily. So really what I want to talk about for the next few minutes is how you can use PACE financing to help leverage your outdoor water savings. And to do that, first, I wanted to show you a little bit about how large outdoor water use is. This is a little skewed towards the multifamily side and is also a little high for the Texas actual usage market. But if you break down into how water is being used for our customer, for the property sites, a lot of it actually goes to the outdoor water use. And so there's a substantive impact that can be made by focusing on that outdoor water use. And there's a big advantage of being able to focus there, because there's a big advantage that can be focused there because the outdoor water use is not behavioral. It's something that is more driven by the mechanics of your outdoor space. And so there's a lot more of direct interaction that you can do to affect that water use. So this chart was provided by American Water Works Association, makes up, it's valuable. We don't need to tell anyone that they need to shower quicker. We can just focus on that outdoor water use. One of the big issues with the outdoor water use is that it's largely managed by people who are not incentivized to pay attention to water. These tend to be landscapers or facility managers who come on and are looking for keeping things green, and they don't actually keep track of the water that they're using or how that might be affecting your billing. And so the upside that we have here is that if we start to provide that monitoring and tools for those people, then you can start to achieve some significant savings just by being able to bring that equipment onto the property in order to do it more efficiently. Also, if you start to pull in and be able to start collecting data on the property, you can see that you can start to be able to more proactively identify leaks and find problems on the property. Just pulling some internal data that we have, we found a little over 4 leaks per property in the last year, each leak around 135,000 gallons. So that will give you kind of an idea of how frequently it happens on these sites and how big those are and how much it means to actually be able to get ahead of them and fix them early. So for the last 4 years, on average, again, using some internal numbers, we save around 50% on the outdoor water use. So think about that big pie piece and just having that cut in half, and we'll talk about it again in the future. But there's some really real savings monetarily by being able to buying some equipment and using PACE in order to affect your outdoor water use. So let's talk a little bit about what tends to happen right now. Right now, there's irrigation controllers that go out there are typically clocks. They're designed to turn on and off water at designated times, and they are hopefully updated seasonally so that they can run a schedule that's optimal for each season that's running. That's expensive, though, because in order to update those schedules, it involves somebody going out there and actually making changes and requires a site visit to make that happen. Hopefully, and most of them are, or all of them are connected to a rain sensor. The rain sensors that are out there today tend to be a switch that will just turn the water off right after a rain event. That sounds great. One of the challenges with this is that half the rain sensors will stop working after 5 years. So they either will stop shutting off the schedule, which means they'll continue running through rain, or they won't turn off for an appropriate period of time so that they'll kick on too early and start raining early. So the rain sensors are a step in the right direction, but they tend to have systems that tend to heavily overwater with this configuration. So you probably can already immediately see that there might be some opportunities for improvement here. And a better approach is the smart controllers. It's a system that is basically designed to see how much rain and irrigation has occurred on the property and adjust it based on some weather data, rain data, or property characteristics. Most modern smart controllers reduce water usage on the property by about 20% by being able to just more efficiently handle schedules than anything else, those dumb clocks that I talked about earlier. So they do this by trying to water the landscape needs, reducing all the excess that occurs consistently on the schedules, because generally schedules are tailored for the worst time of the worst month. And so by going to smart controllers, you can usually save that 20%. Additional smart controllers help to avoid the site visits. So when people keep having to go back on the property to adjust schedules, the smart controllers will automatically do that adjustment, and it saves those truck rolls, which is basically meaning that a landscaper has to go out there, or a site manager has to go out to the facility to modify each one of those controllers, and that reduces some costs as well. So adding a smart controller can achieve some of these savings on the sites. There are a lot of options in the space, both residentially and commercially. They're offered by a number of controller manufacturers. There's a lot of options in the space. There are some additional opportunities for savings that go beyond this, though, if you want to include the ability to collect more additional data. So we talked a little bit about weather data, but there's additional information that we can start to collect for the property to improve the transparency of water use that's happening on the property, to be able to improve efficiency. So weather data is one of the items. You can also use it to weather data to find things like current usage versus previous usage. You can also look for predictions into future use. You can do all of that information for helping with budgeting and planning purposes. When you're looking outside, you may be able to provide weather data for the context that you might need for kind of smarter decisions with how you're going to water and how you're going to configure your landscape. There's other types of data that becomes useful for being able to more efficiently run water use on the property. Some of this is configuration on the property, like soil types, plant types, size, locations of valves and meters, pressure. You might be able to collect water usage data to help establish performance. This is particularly helpful when you are that combined with pressure to help identify issues with the system to be able to make sure that you're being more efficient with how you're using the water in your outdoor space. You can collect utility data to get on top of that to help with benchmarking and verifications of performance. All of those items can help you to more tightly manage the water use on the property, especially in the outdoor space, where there really is very little visibility right now. Right now, generally what happens is there's somebody tied to the property somewhere, and usually finance, that pays the bill and may print out the bill and store it in their office, and that doesn't really get shared around very much. And you also might find where someone, maybe the landscaper has an as-built irrigation drawing that was built a long time ago that maybe hasn't been updated in a while. And that's the lucky set of tools that most of the properties and sites have to work with in order to manage their outdoor water use. And so spending that initial investment to be able to collect this information and data so that you can understand how the water is moving on the property to be more efficient can help with some significant savings that we'll talk about again. So once you have this data at your fingertips, there's a number of things that you can do with it. You can detect your underground leaks and prevent water damage to buildings. This is, with real-time flow data, you can respond much quicker to those issues than waiting for it to show up on the water bill or having to wait until you can see damaging leaks, until it becomes visible. That when you have that real-time data to see how water's moving on the property, you can see the efficiency of the system. So you can start to look ahead for areas of the property that are not performing the way that you would expect it to. So you don't have to wait to see for green spots or brown spots that you might normally have to wait for. And so being able to proactively get ahead of some of these issues can save you a significant amount of water along the way. So that's how typically you can cut, with more advanced data, you can cut irrigation use down by 50% by being smarter about that outdoor water use. We've seen that this is one of the biggest and easiest steps that most clients can take in order to save water because there is so much water that's being used out there, and there is so little visibility into how that water is being applied onto the property that any of that early detection and clues help a long way for being able to be responsive and be more efficient with that water use. So discovering repairs and leaks is helpful, especially when we're going into a lot of these properties that we see tend to have additional outdoor water features tied with them. This might include ponds, or maybe there's a pond fill with it. Maybe there is dog parks or other outdoor activity areas that are tied to it, car washes, something similar. And frequently those fountains and pond fills and everything have very little visibility into what that water use is tied into it. So frequently, if say there's a leak that's happening on a fountain or a pond fill fixture, that people might know that there's a small leak there, but with a float valve that keeps it full, that nobody will have a real understanding of what that full water use is until it's much too late. And so having some real-time visibility into that water use can have dramatic savings. So you can find a lot of ways to reduce your property's water use with data and advanced control systems. The initial investment can have a quick return due to the savings found on water bills. The financial benefit of applying these smart controllers, leak detection services, efficiency improvements can quickly recover your initial investment. We talked a lot about leak detection and improved usage, but modern data-first systems can really help to drive improvements in infrastructure. We see a high investment in plant material, and there's no visibility into the systems that's keeping that investment green the way that you were expecting to or really put it in. So tracking the flow and scheduling, you can actually make sure that that plant investment is kept with the appropriate amount of water needed. So you can track flow and scheduling, and that can help you to detect stuck valves, clogged heads, broken lines, whatever might cause problems for that investment. And while there's certainly significant savings in the water savings for leaks, but maintaining that landscape could cause bigger savings actually from being able to keep that landscape green. Finally, having the water-related data, you can help to support your business to get other water infrastructure projects done. So once you have a baseline for how you're using the water, and once you are able to come up with targets and actually manage the water towards those new targets, then there's also an opportunity to use that same set of data to be able to identify other water projects that you might want to accomplish and whether it makes financial sense or not. Whether you're changing landscape, whether you're modifying cooling tower, pond fills, or anything that's tied in, you can help track to make sure that any changes that you make, you'll now have the data to figure out whether financially that makes sense or not. And make sure you get it into future budgets. So we talk about all these items individually, but putting the infrastructure in place to track, analyze, optimize, verify, and repeat has a big impact on the water use and on your water bill. What we typically see is that most properties use at most 2 data points, the usage and cost from the water bill that arrives much later through your bill. In reality, there's thousands of data points that you can use to track and get a clearer picture of what's happening. Centralizing all this data and providing the transparency is what's happening for properties that can help to allocate the resources you need to optimally use your water on the property and prioritize what changes are the most cost-effective that you should be investing in. So finally, I pulled together an example of how centralized data can be used to understand and take control of usage. Providing a feedback loop will help to stay optimized over time. We typically see smart systems lose performance over time because seasons will pass, landscaping changes, or construction events occur. There might be even tampering with the system, and this happens a lot in the multifamily space. And by using the smart systems with continuous improvement, you can see the investment perform year in, year out. I've got 2 bars here, and you can see how one remains relatively flat even with the increasing utility rate. And then the other one just drifts up over time of water use based on just missing that feedback loop where it can't correct for potential problems with the systems or inefficiencies that are being incurred over time and becoming additive. So just to put some numbers into perspective here, typically when we will see properties that have, when they have over $20,000 in annual water spend, those typically are properties that will benefit the most from a high data environment for managing their outdoor water use. And that will get you into savings of about 50%. So if you look at your utility costs, if you're spending $20,000 in your irrigation spend, then there's a good chance you'll be able to cut that one in half. If you're not there and it's a smaller location that you're doing outdoor use, then there's a much just smart controller options where you are more just actively managing that data with the scheduling and control of data, as well as hopefully starting to collect some data centrally for somebody else to review, is likely your better option, and that is, like I said, less than $20,000 in annual irrigation spend, and that savings tends to be around in the 20% range. So again, do the quick math real quick to figure out what the savings would that would be on an annual basis. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, David. So it sounds like there is a lot of potential for water savings, both inside and outside the buildings, for these types of facilities. And one of the reasons that we wanted to present this webinar and talk about this program and kind of try to summarize the savings is we really, there's just been a lot of attention paid to municipal water use, obviously, in the residential sector. And working within industrial, commercial, and institutional facilities is can be really specialized, and they're all unique. And there's also this wonderful funding program, and so we wanted to kind of bring all that together and talk about this because, like I said, we're always looking for ways to conserve water in our communities. We need to be able to do that in order to make sure that we have water for people and the environment in Texas. We're going to start our Q&A section now. We have a screen up with some of those beautiful places that we like to try to protect that are better with water. So for a little eye candy, but we've received quite a few questions, and we're going to let Ruthie kind of she's been cataloging them as we go, and everyone's here ready to try to answer some for y'all.
Okay, so I'll start off with, does PACE have any promotional materials that municipalities can use to promote them to our commercial water customers?
That for me?
Yep.
So the answer is yes, we certainly do. We have a lot of stuff on our website, texaspaceauthority.org. We've got flyers, case studies, even a couple of videos that we've made that are project specific. You can also reach out to me afterwards, and I'd be happy to provide anything else that you needed there. In addition, we're happy to come and speak to any groups or customers or whoever that you'd like us to.
And we can include that website and contact information for all the speakers in the follow-up email that everybody will receive, so that you all have that handy.
Yeah. Okay, another question you might have just alluded to is, are there any training programs to develop a program under PACE?
So training programs, so really two sides to that. If you're talking about getting a county or city to start a program, that can be kind of at first it can seem like a daunting process, but that's something that we help counties and cities do. Not something I want to go through here, but if you are representing a county or city that is interested in creating a program, please reach out to us and we can get you plugged in there. Happy to work with you there. In terms of once a program is up and running, training programs, the good news is if a county or city has a program, it's immediately available to everyone that has property in that city or county. All of our counties and cities, we run marketing efforts, including training sessions for the local stakeholder community, so folks like contractors, property owners, things like that. You can check our website for upcoming events, as well as, if you have any good ideas or things you'd like us to be at, please let us know.
Okay. So the last question about this topic, does PACE have any requirements as to how much the projects need to save? Is that part of the criteria?
Yeah, so the question's around how much do they need to save, and I'm not going to get too much into the technical details here, but we do require all of our projects have to provide a cost-benefit analysis, and there's not kind of an absolute threshold in terms of how much water in terms of gallons does it have to save, but there is essentially how it has to save as much as it costs. So as part of that cost-benefit analysis, if you had a project that's going to cost $1 million over the 20 years of its useful life, then the requirement would be it would also have to save at least that much over the same period.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. So we have a question for Bill. He mentioned a water audit in his presentation. So the question is, what kind of qualification is required to do a water audit in the ICI sector, and what are the protocols?
Very good question here. First place, as you know, as with energy, you can have an audit done of your irrigation system. You can have an audit just like energy guys will come in and do a lighting audit. So you have things broken into small parts, or if you want to do a complete water efficiency audit, there are a number of firms. You're familiar with ESCOs that do energy service companies that do energy audits. There are WASCOs that do this too. As far as the protocols, etc., unfortunately, we don't have as much of an infrastructure set up as the energy guys do. ASHRAE, American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, has a protocol for the auditors to follow on how to write the audit and what to do. This is being developed for the water side. It has not been implemented yet. We're a little behind the curve on that one, but there are a number of qualified, what you call WASCOs, water service companies, who can come in, do a complete audit and complete retrofit of your facilities. Or if you're interested in the cooling towers and the irrigation, you can find companies that can come and do just that component for you.
Okay. We have another question. This person says that they're interested in starting a company focused on energy and water retrofits. If they wanted to address the industrial sector, what are the initial steps that they should take to become eligible for offering clients PACE financing? That's open to the team.
Well, so in terms of being eligible to offer PACE financing, so we do, Texas is an open market program, and what I mean by that is that essentially property owners and business owners have choice in who they use as a contractor and in where they source the capital for projects for. So in that respect, we do not have preferred contractors. We don't qualify contractors. Really, it's up to property owners to choose who they want to work with. So there's nothing really that needs to happen there. I mean, you're welcome to offer PACE financing as part of your current or upcoming product offerings. That's fine. What we do as a consumer protection and as quality control is that there is a third-party review of all of our projects that will be separate from the individual contractor. But just, I guess, the short story is you're welcome to offer PACE. There's no qualifying process there.
Okay, and we had a lot of questions about the availability of the slides, so Jennifer can answer that, about where they're going to be located.
Yeah, we're going to have all the slides posted online at texaslivingwaters.org, and you all receive the link in the follow-up email. Do we have more questions, Ruthie?
Not for like the group. So I think that's about it.
Okay.
A few on here.
Yeah.
Did anyone want to say anything else? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you want me to read these out? Okay. Yeah, so we had a question on provide details on the structuring of project with a nonprofit. And so essentially a project with a nonprofit is the same as with a for-profit, just there may be some additional tax benefits that for-profit entities would be able to claim. A nonprofit, and we've actually done a couple here in Travis County, the nonprofit can decide, hey, for example, we had a congregation, Beth Israel, a synagogue here in Austin, that used PACE to provide to fund a new chiller, boiler, and window treatment and a control system. And essentially, PACE just takes the form of funding that project and gets paid back over a special assessment on the property. We've also had nonprofits do solar and roof retrofit, so it really just depends on what the nonprofit's needs are.
Okay, and then there's another one, someone asking about getting more information about the project in El Paso County.
Yes, so we do have an active program in El Paso County, so please reach out to me or anyone at our organization. Again, that's Texas PACE Authority. My email, you can find it on the website, or it's just Jonathon at Texas PACE Authority. Let me know, and we'd be happy to answer your questions there.
And again, we'll include Jonathon and David and Bill's contact information in the follow-up email that you all will receive with the link to the presentation.
Okay, we have one more question coming in. Are there any companies in Austin actively relying on PACE?
So actively relying on PACE, yes, we have done in the last year 5 projects in the Austin area. I showed a few with Simon Property Group, which is a fairly large REIT, real estate investment trust. We have had some various, as I mentioned, nonprofit projects as well. And then in the pipeline, really several dozen property owners of various sizes and industries that are looking at PACE.
And then I saw a question too about North Texas, and I know folks are kind of wondering when or if PACE will be coming to, say, Tarrant County. I know it's in Dallas now, but it's a huge area up there with a lot of potential. And do you know if PACE is coming to those counties, or what folks can do to try to help that happen?
North Texas is an exciting area. We do have a program in the city of Dallas right now, and are, I think, on the verge of closing the first projects there. As far as the surrounding counties go, we do get asked about those counties a lot, and there is a lot of interest in those areas. We would be happy to, if you let us know, to plug you into those efforts. I'm not aware of any of those counties that are imminent at this point, but certainly we are in the process of trying to get some traction there.
And it's usually done, PACE is usually adopted through the county government, correct? So the county commissioners and...
It can be counties or cities.
Yes.
Most of our programs are counties, with the exception of Houston and Dallas.
Okay.
Two city programs.
Okay, great. Have there been any other questions or anything? All right. Well, I think that that's about it. I really want to thank our presenters for being here today, and I want to thank you all online for your participation. We appreciate your interest in PACE and improving water conservation in your facilities and in our communities. This is something that we'll all benefit from. Texas is growing. People are coming here all the time. We've got to use water as efficiently as we can in our communities and use all the tools at our disposal. And this is just one of those, and we hope a really powerful one. Once we end the webinar, you will have a survey pop up on your screen. Please go ahead and take that, and then we will send follow-up information. I think it will come on Friday. And we thank you all for your time.